Welcome to First Impressions, a podcast where we talk about our lives as Asian Australians and other cross-cultural topics. I'm Clement, and with me is my friend Nathan.
Hey, how are you guys?
And today we're just going to be introducing this podcast, telling you guys what it's about, and sort of just letting you guys get to know a bit about us.
Mm-hmm. So let's get straight ahead onto this exact podcast. Yeah, let's talk about how it came to be. Do you want to start that off?
Well, the way it came to be is we had this idea. Well, we didn't have an idea actually. We just started. We used to walk around, just casually walk around a lot, and we used to, just talk and talk and talk, and things never really ended the way they started. They kind of just took their like a path of their own.
Yeah. Like Derek would always say, we'd go from A to G. We'd probably try to get to C, but we'd always go to G first. We'd go A, G, F, B. And then eventually somehow make it to C after
I failed English in high school, so.
Which kind of, makes sense as to how we came to this sort of strange path.
And we thought we've heard a lot of things out there, like other podcasts or just people talking in general, and it was nowhere near as funny as we were. Like,
oh yeah,
we came up with some pretty batshit stuff, and we thought, why not record it and put it out there, just see what people think about it. Maybe it'll make someone's day, give them a laugh or something like that.
Exactly. So that was pretty much it. We said, let's make a podcast, but then we kind of got stuck. We're like, oh, hang on, what exactly are we going to talk about? We talk about a lot of crazy stuff and random stuff, but what exactly?
And I remember going through the process with you of figuring out our niche, like figuring out where we wanted to actually talk about. It was pretty difficult. We juggled around like quite a few ideas. And we eventually got to.
Well, basically, we stopped for a few days just talking about it, and then one day Derek just texts me randomly at 4 a.m. or something like that.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. I was definitely still asleep at the point. But you were saying, what if we call ourselves First Impressions, and we just talk about how we react to certain things, right?
Now, this is because we sort of only had exposures to kind of review podcasts at the time, and I thought we would be sort of going along that line. And that's where the First Impressions, the name came. The actual name came before we actually figured out what we want to talk about. So we kind of
A to G.
Yeah, well there you go, yeah. And then we kind of built backwards from that a little bit. So originally we thought we were just gonna, because we talk a lot about movies and comic books and just other stuff like that, because that's our area of, like, we can cross over our interests like that. But then we thought about it a bit further, and we decided maybe we can talk about something that's more unique to us, like the two of us.
Well, we tried to figure that out. We were still kind of experimenting. So we thought, how about we give the podcast a couple of goes? This is actually attempt 4, 5, 6?
The fifth proper one.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Hopefully we won't have to do it again.
Let's hope so. Because, we've done a lot. And second or third attempt, it went on a massive segue. We started talking about our lives as Asian Australians, and we got into a really good conversation about that. I kind of wish we could show that at some point. Maybe
we could maybe if we figure out how to do the computer shit.
Yeah. We're still new to all this crap, but essentially we started talking about that and found, hey, hang on, this is a really good idea that we can cover, because there's so much that we can talk about.
Oh, for the people that don't know, we're both first generation,
second generation,
first, second.
Well, see, it kind of depends on who you ask, because some people are first generation born from their family, but some other sociologists, things like that, they consider the first generation of a family in a country to be the ones that did the
guess it also because we're different in the way your parents were here a lot longer than mine.
Well, my dad was definitely.
Yeah, your dad. So my parents came over here when they were about 30 years old. They just when they had me. They came over to Australia, whereas yours have been here. Yeah, so it also depends on did your parents grow up here? Do you they don't necessarily born here, but if they grew up here, just.
Yeah, I'm we're two very different second generation Asian Australians, and well, that sort of little snippet of conversation we just had just then is kind of what gave us this entire idea of just going, hey, there's a lot of ground we can cover about our lives as Asian Australians, and other bits and pieces in terms of a cross-cultural topic.
Just give you guys a listen to sort of our perspective on, how we grew up, how it's different,
how we see the world.
Yeah, and it also carries over to our friends. We've all our main friends, they're all in the same position as us. They're first/second generation Australians, but we've all had very different upbringings. Not only in terms of schooling background, but like just with like culturally as well. Some people's parents are more, they try to ingrain more of our culture into us, whereas some are just like, yeah, whatever.
And even then, there are different cultures within that whole Asian culture.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm Filipino. Clement here is
Malaysian. Yeah. Clement, the Malaysian. That's what they call me on the streets.
No one has ever called you that.
You couldn't let me have this one.
Don't lie on the first podcast.
They don't know me.
Well, they will. They'll get to know you, and they're going to find out one day that no one actually calls you Clement the Malaysian. Yeah, and then they're going to see you as a fraud, as a lie. I'm just trying to clear your name as soon as possible.
This is over.
This is over?
This is our first and last episode.
Okay. Guys, thank you for listening.
Imagine that. That'd be fucking funny.
Okay.
Anyway, with the culture thing, just because our different like Asian backgrounds also have different expectations, and the way that that's transitioned into us growing up here, it's very, very different, because a lot of Asian cultural rules contradict with a lot of Western rules, and it's interesting to see how our families have individually sort of either mixed them or rejected some or accepted some. It's it's going to be a great podcast either way.
On top of that, it's also interesting to see how our friends who don't come from Asian cultures react to our different lifestyles and cultures and food.
The Westerners.
Yeah. I don't know if
the white devils.
I don't think we can say that at all.
Why not?
I was just trying to get into
the Guaylo, as it's referred to as Cantonese.
Yes.
But please don't get offended by this.
No, please don't. We kind of need the viewers and the listeners. But that's sort of why we decided to keep the First Impression name to our podcast, because we still want to talk about our stories, how people react to certain things, how we react to certain things.
It's really a first impression about everything coming from our perspective. That's all it is.
That's pretty much it. And we thought, you know what? Even though we're not doing reviews anymore, the name still kind of fits.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But First Impressions, the name was, it wasn't enough. Turns out First Impressions is a little bit more commonly phrased.
We did a little bit of digging on, what was it, Podbean?
Yeah, Podbean.
Well, Nathan did some digging, and he found that actually
there was another podcast called First Impressions. It had its own little tagline, sub-headline sort of thing to it. But we thought, okay,
what was it about again?
It was about some sort of Jane Austen novels or something. I don't want to give them a shout out, especially on our first episode. But
too late.
It's too late now. Okay. You could look them up if you wanted to, but you know who you should really be coming to.
So we're actually, our street name, I guess you could say, is First Impressions, but our
birth name,
the
podcast established full name?
Yeah. The full name is First Impressions. What is it? First Impressions Podcast.
The podcast.
The podcast.
Yeah.
Is there a colon in there or?
Yeah, there's a colon there. So it's First Impressions Podcast : the podcast. We're looking to market this, see where it goes in the future.
Yeah, I see how successful it is. But yeah, that's pretty much how First Impressions came about. I think, being the very first podcast, we should give the listeners a bit to know about us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we thought we'd spice things up a little bit, change it up, and talk about each other's to introduce each other. Our first impression of the other first.
Kind of like a game, but not really. Hey?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But how about you start?
I'll start?
Yeah.
My first impression of Nathan. So, I had started at a new school. This was college. In Australia, college is like 16, 17?
Yeah, pretty much.
16, 17 years old. So I was 16, I went to this new school, and I didn't know anyone there. I was the only one who came from my high school into that college. And so I was like, okay, like looking around, trying to make new friends. I did make some new friends on the very first couple of days, actually. They weren't the best of friends. They weren't the brightest of people. I remember the exact day. We were sitting in English and we were doing some silent reading or self-reading or whatever you call it. I failed English. So, yeah, I was sitting there with my new friends and we were sitting under the table making farm animal noises. Yeah, very cool. I know.
Super subtle as well.
Super subtle. The teacher had no idea who it was.
Sure. No, like teachers know.
Oh god.
What's happening? Who it is.
So yeah, we were sitting there doing our thing. Everyone was silent reading, and I just remember hearing, like out the corner of my ear, like just like some girls giggling, and I remember looking over, and it was Nathan and two girls, our close friends now, sitting in the corner having a great time. I don't know what they were doing. I can't remember, but all I knew was it was Nathan, two girls, and giggling. So, what does that tell you? What if you had seen me doing that? What would your reaction be?
I would probably think, oh, this guy's a bit of a player.
Exactly what I thought about you. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I gotta be friends with this guy. He's making all the girls laugh. It's awesome. And like, even like seeing Nathan around like the first like couple of weeks, I used to always see him walking around at recess and lunchtime with girls. And I was like, okay, this guy knows what's up. He knows.
Out of curiosity, was it just these two or was it others?
No, it was other girls as well. Like you guys, because like Nathan's he's got like a good amount of balance in his friendships. Like he's friends with equal amount of girls as guys. Actually, no, you're friends with more girls than guys.
I think I've come to realize that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just talk to them more.
Yeah. So you got more girlfriends than guy friends, and like. When you're young, when you're 16 years old, a guy, you're just always, all you're looking at is the girls. So you're always looking at the girls, and then you always see Nathan there, and you're like, what? How is that possible? Why is he walking around with every single girl at the school?
Makes it less obvious that I'm checking them out.
Hey, respect.
I shouldn't have said that online.
Hey, it's out there now.
It's alright. They'll probably don't remember.
Yeah, so that was my first impression of Nathan. I thought he was a player, really good with girls, and wanted to be his homie, in a way. Yeah. Now, is that accurate, Nate?
Well, I think we had very different first impressions of each other.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So see, with me, my first impression happened before I actually met Clement here back at school. So essentially, I was talking to one of those girls that he was talking about. We were sort of had a bit of a thing. I was into her. I'm not gonna lie. And she started talking about a friend of hers from a different school coming to ours. And so, emotions are high and,
Just to clarify, that was me?
Yeah, that was you.
Okay, yep.
You're ruining my story, man. I was just going to say.
Sorry.
I was building up to it.
Okay, my bad.
That's okay. That's all right.
Sit here quietly.
That's okay.
Sip my water.
Yeah, you sip your water. That's not his water. And basically, see him on the first day of school, and I think, you know what? I'm not gonna like this dude. He's got this, badass look, rolled up sleeves, spiked up hair, Asian gangster style, as we've mentioned. We're Australian Asians, so I can say that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's okay. No. Cool. So yeah, I thought he was, trying to put on this tough guy look, but was really trying to, just as a look.
Wait, what do you mean was trying to put on this tough guy look? I was a tough guy.
Yeah, well, I said it was my first impression. I just thought, this new kid wants to try to make an image of himself, and it'll be tough, and try to get the girls with the cool guy sort of approach. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it. But as we all know, first impressions aren't normally the correct ones.
No.
Definitely.
So many times I've been let down by first impression, whether it be like a movie or you. I always thought that the first. I'd say 2 to 3 times you meet someone new, not even in like a dating way, just like in a friend of a friend. The first 2 or 3 times you meet someone, you don't get to meet the real them.
Never.
Until you've built a rapport with them, and you've found out your topics of interest together. You don't meet the real person, because people always have an image they want to put out there in the world.
Exactly. I mean, like for us, it was kind of funny because I don't think either of us would have seen it coming, but when we finally kind of talked to each other due to other mutual friends, we found out we had an interest in K-pop.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, really? I did not see this guy to be into that sort of thing.
Back in the TB phase. Okay, some more background information here. I was really into K-pop because of this girl. So this girl, she was super into K-pop. She was a dancer as well, so you know what I'm saying? Anyway, yeah. She was really into K-pop, so I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm into K-pop." As a young man, you'll say whatever will work. So I got into K-pop. I started listening to the music, and then I realized, oh, K-pop, sexy girls, sexy Asian girls, in skimpy outfits dancing around.
And some of the music wasn't half bad.
It wasn't. And it was very relatable too, you know. I wanted to be that cute girl trying to get the guy.
Of course. You just imagine you're that mannequin who wants to wake up and come to life and get that cute guy like in our girls' generation.
Have that dream every night, buddy.
Yeah, not as frequent for me anymore, but you know, it's been a while. But yeah, no. Basically, what I'm getting at is we ended up connecting with that and we got closer, and it's now been what, 7 years?
7
since then?
Years.
Yeah, it's been.
This is 2018. We met in 2011, so 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a while.
It has. And in 7 years, you know, people change a lot. It's kind of when you see a friend going through like a new phase in life or just get a new interest, and you think back to when you first met them and how they've evolved. It's crazy like that, and especially at this kind of age where we met when we were 16, and we're all now about 23.
Yeah.
And just like during that adult university life, just young adulthood, you know, more responsibilities coming your way, things happen with family. It's crazy to see how much each of us have evolved.
And how much our culture and our family has actually helped to shape the person that we've become too.
Exactly.
And that's going to also be a big part of what we talk about throughout these podcasts, hopefully.
Yeah, our culture. To each one of us, our culture is very important to us.
Definitely.
And that's one thing. Sorry, the context.
Yeah, maybe
when we're talking about us, we have a group of main friends. It's 5 of us, and yeah, like I mentioned before, we're all, you know, of the same background in terms of being first generation Australian. And one of the reasons I feel that the 5 of us have become so close with each other is definitely being put in those same situations, the same struggles that we had all growing up.
Or at least they're very similar.
Yeah, the thing about balancing Asian culture and Western culture, and it's really the inspiration for this entire podcast. Our friends. Yeah.
So, how about we talk a little bit more about that sort of background rather than just our first impressions? We'll go into actually who we are.
Get in deep.
Yeah, exactly.
As it were.
Yeah, as it were. This is PG, man. Try to keep it as such. So, Clement.
Yes, that's me.
Talk a little bit about yourself. How about that?
Clement.
Enough about me.
Well, I feel like it's better if we conduct this in an interview sort of situation.
Oh, okay.
What do you think that the listeners would want to know about me?
How about you talk about a little bit on, I don't know, this is a podcast about our Australian Asian sort of background, right? Talk first about, you know, your family, your background.
My family, it consists of myself, my mother, my father, and my brother. We are all Malaysians. Actually, coming here, my parents, they came here they migrated here. Just because back in Malaysia, it's just hard to make money, and they came here actually seeking a better education for me and my brother. So my dad's a cook. He came here on a job. They migrated here almost 30 years ago now, and they're always saying to either myself or like other of my friends, like, oh, you know, you guys have it so easy now, you know, like the typical parents, like, just always, you've always got it so easy, and especially the whole migration thing, like, but I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, that's besides the point for now.
That's a topic for another day.
Another episode.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one to cover ground on, actually.
Yeah, we were here all on permanent residency visas until about 5 years ago when we got citizenship in Australia. And it's actually funny. Me and my brother were both born in this country. He was given citizenship, and I wasn't.
Why?
I don't know. I'm not sure on the details of that, but my brother's been a citizen of Australia since he was born. There's only 2 years difference between us. Maybe the laws changed or something like that, but yes. So me, my brother, my mother, and my father, we were all permanent residents in Australia. And my brother was born 2 years later, and he was a citizen since day one.
He's just like, suck it. I've got all the laws, and you guys have nothing.
In a way, yeah, I guess so.
That's kind of rude.
I mean, it's my brother. He's the youngest of the family. They get away with everything.
Oh, always, man.
Youngest.
Classic.
Who needs him? Actually, we kind of do, because then we'd be the youngest, technically.
In the sense, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I kind of like being the oldest.
Yeah.
Get that sort of a sense of responsibility.
Well, do you want to tell them a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I guess that kind of segues right into that. So, similarly to Clement here, I'm a family of 4. I've got a younger brother and my parents, of course. So my dad, he came from the Philippines, but he came here when he was around 8 to 11 years old. I'm not 100% sure in the details of that, because he'd come here, but he like kind of moved here at the age of 11, something like that. Anyway, his dad, my grandfather, was the one that actually migrated, and bit by bit, his family of 6 eventually ended up here in Australia.
Oh, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
So you are actually second.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the weird thing about it. It becomes like, am I in a sense then a second or rather third generation, depending on what sort of way you go? Again, a sort of a segue here. I did a bachelor in languages. That's sort of my educational background. So we talked a lot about sociology and a lot about linguistics sort of backgrounds. So for me, I identify first generation as those who did the moving, second generation as the ones that were born, firstborn from the immigrants. But there's sometimes a talk about a 1.5 generation, which are those who come in their early teens or earlier than that. And that would kind of be where my dad is at. So in a sense, I'm second generation because I am still the first born in my family here. But I have a lot of third wave, I suppose, upbringings.
Yeah.
But and throughout these podcasts, you'll probably find out that Clement's upbringing and my upbringing are pretty different. There's a bit more.
And you can also tell by the way we speak English.
That's probably true.
Your English is like, hoi.
Look, when I was like 4 or 5, I almost had to do English as a second language as a class because it was terrible.
But you came from that to doing double English in year 11 and 12.
And then pursuing languages further
and then pursuing languages.
It was a bit of passion.
You did English, you got bored of it, and you wanted to learn some new ones.
Exactly.
Whereas I was ESL for 7 years, Kinder through to year 6, ESL. and then 11 and 12, I didn't even show up to English classes. With you.
Yeah.
With you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you failed English.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
That's all right. But going back. Yeah. Back to me. Back to me. My mom, she also came from the Philippines, but she didn't move here until her and my dad got married. So I'm in a very interesting sort of mixed generation situation here, where I've got bits and pieces from third generation sort of views, second generation. Yeah.
What do you consider yourself as?
I consider myself...
That's the most important.
It's very interesting that way because I kind of consider myself... While I'd like to consider myself as a second generation, I feel I have more of the criteria filled for the third. Which are those who are born from the immigrants.
Okay.
But that's probably because of that 1/2 generation talk that we just had.
And so that makes me a second in your eyes.
Right, and that would make you second.
Yeah. Exactly. So the first is the generation who actually moved over here.
Yeah.
And the second is the first born in here.
Yes. Okay. That's how I see it. We might end up confusing you guys along the way, but we'll try to clarify which one we're talking about.
Yeah, we'll put it up on a spreadsheet somewhere.
Yeah, something like that. keep big red highlight.
We'll put it on the poster.
What each thing means.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's a bit about me and my background. Is there anything else that we need to cover in this first one?
We need to cover where they can find us.
Oh, of course. So at the moment, we're going to be putting our bits and pieces. If you're hearing this on, SoundCloud or iTunes or YouTube, we'll still have our newest episodes there when we continue to have more episodes up. But our main hosting site where you can mainly find us is on Podbean. So
in terms of our low budget and just starting out, that's the most beneficial for us. Exactly. We're still trying to work out how we're going to exactly do this. We're completely new to this. We've never done this before, so we're just still figuring things out. If anyone has any comments or tips for us, those kind of things, any suggestions, or if you could help us out on the best way to, get this out there. We do want this to become like an actual thing. Even if it doesn't mean Nathan will still probably keep doing this.
Yeah, because it's fun.
It'll be something when we're in our wheelchairs we can listen to. And
we had this idea one time of a time capsule with our friends, which never came to
fruition. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and that was actually...
I worked hard to push for that as
well. I know, man. I agreed with it. And that was actually the very, very first time we had an idea of a podcast.
That's right. And that was, 2-3 years ago now?
At least.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure I was living overseas at the time when we were talking
That's
about
right, yeah. And then we wanted to do this with everyone.
Yeah, have all the group in, but, priorities change. Things change.
People get busy. It's hard to organise with five young
people.
Adults, working or studying.
We found one day in how many months to actually hang out the other night.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was great fun, but it just kind of makes you think about how hard it is to get everyone in one spot.
Exactly.
So,
but if you did have any suggestions, comments, or any sort of tips for us, you can email us at firstimpressions.pod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just leave a comment on whatever medium you're listening to this on.
And we'll probably have something like a Twitter or some sort of Instagrams or sort of.
Ooh, I like that.
Something else where you can reach out to us and see what we're up to.
Again, you can see this is slightly unorganized, but we'll figure it out.
Episode 1, baby.
We promise you guys. We'll figure this out.
Episode 2 will sound far more organized.
Exactly. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening.